Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session at VOCE Global 2022. Very happy to be back at this great event. I've presented here in the past, and I'm really looking forward to give this presentation. My name is Christoph, and I'm founder of VUI.agency, and we create virtual assistants with charisma. Now, why would you be interested in charismatic virtual assistants, what we call charismatic AI? We believe that moving towards the age of assistants, we will move to truly create assistants worthy of their name, assistants that establish a special relationship between users and the brands. And when we look at human-to-human interaction, usually we see a charismatic interaction as the highest possible basically level that you can reach. And you say like, wow, that was really a charismatic personality. When you go away from a presentation, then you have a feeling, wow, that was really a special interaction. And that's why we said, okay, well, let's apply the same to creating virtual assistants, and let's try to create assistants where users walk away and say like, wow, that was a special experience, and I'm looking forward to interact with this assistant in the future. So what is charisma actually about? When do we say, well, that was a charismatic person? So throughout history, humans have been drawn to people with charisma, and people with charisma are usually strong personalities who emit this feeling that they can have a positive impact on my life. Now, this is a recorded session, so I cannot ask the audience. Otherwise, at this point, I would ask, do you know who this young person here grew up to be? And unfortunately, we cannot do the quizzing game here, but I will show you immediately. That's actually Franklin D. Roosevelt, who grew up to be one of the most influential presidents of the United States. And as you can see here, even at this young age, he had something that could draw you in. That's like, wow, this is like, as a special personality. And of course, growing up, he showed to become that very influential personality that we see here on this picture. So what is it actually that draws us towards charismatic characters? Charisma is in the essence built on three pillars. Some kind of power, some kind of benevolence, and some kind of presence. So what does that mean? So when you have a person who has a lot of power, but doesn't want anything good for you, that's not very attractive to you. On the other hand, if the person has benevolence or wants to do good things for you, but doesn't really have the power to implement it or to get it done for you, it's also not as attractive. And when you have these two elements, so you emit that, well, I want to help you and I can help you, I have the power to do. And that's actually what is in this word emit, when you emit that. So when you have the presence, when you are really rooted in the present moment and you're focused on whoever you're interacting with, then this other person feels actually these two elements, that you want something good and you have the power to do it. And when these three things come together, you have a charismatic personality in essence. And now, of course, these three main pillars have a lot of like subcategories. So charisma is like a very versatile concept. And of course, when we try to create virtual assistants with charisma, we look at all possible sub-elements that could have an influence on creating a charismatic experience. Now, question again, you're building a voice bot, and not the President of the United States. So why do you care? Well, in my eyes, we are living in the age of a paradigm shift, where when we look at how we interact with the interfaces that we interact with, we're actually moving away from I have to understand the interface to the interface understands me. And since interfaces are usually used by companies, brands to communicate, it's again like I don't have to understand how this company wants to communicate with me on this website, but it understands me as I am. And this paradigm shift, which has been made possible by advances in natural language understanding and so on, is crucial because, for example, it allows us to move to a very different version, or let me say, like move back to a very attractive version, for example, of doing customer service. So when we look back in the history of customer service, going back 200 years maybe, great customer service just meant, a great dedicated shop owner. When you had a problem, you went there, and she or he talked directly with you, understood you, showed empathy, understood the problem, solved the problem for you. And with the invention of the invention of the telephone was basically going hand in hand with a general possibility to scale production, for example. So you could produce much more goods, and with the telephone you could still offer customer service, but because it was still people talking, you were still talking with your customers directly. And then over the last decades, we have gone through another period of scaling even more, with the internet, websites, online retail. We could sell even more products at the same time, and scaling even like with the telephone-based customer service was getting difficult. And so companies moved away from talking with their customers towards talking only to their customers. So they created something which we call self-service. So here is something for you, and you please, I give you some hints, I give you some help, but basically it's your responsibility to solve that problem. And now with the emergence of virtual assistants, we actually have the possibility to move back in time in terms of attractiveness of customer service and create a shop owner who is really dedicated, really interested in the problem of the customer, really wants to solve it, takes all the time it needs to solve that problem, but we can do that at scale. So we can combine the scaling that self-service allowed companies to do, but we can move back to this higher quality of a service interaction, which is really service. Like I am doing service for you. That's what service means, right? To serve. It's not here it is, and you take care of it. Right? That's not really service. So the emergence of virtual assistants allows us to do that. And then, of course, if that's possible, then which company will you prefer? The one that offers the service, in quotation marks, that says, here you go and you deal with it, or the one that offers this very attractive shop owner that talks with you, is engaging with you, and shows you that it's really interested in your problem. So if that's the case, you have to ask yourself, well, who would you like your customers to talk with, right? Because as I said, you can create this attractive shop owner at scale. So like it can talk to millions of customers at the same time, theoretically. But this is a very impactful assistant personality. So you should really choose it well. And that's what it is about for us when we say like, well, why are we interested in creating these charismatic assistants, it's about creating such special experiences. Now I talked about here, for example, customer service, right? There's applications at the same time in, for example, commerce, right? What we now call conversational commerce. So your customer comes, gets to know your company, gets to know your products, and you can always ask yourself, well, if I'm in this situation, what would be a great assistant that could help me in, for example, understanding this product offering, you know? So of course, we will not create a pure voice assistant when we sell, for example, when we sell clothes, right? Of course, we will have a multimodal interface that shows all the clothes, but at the same time, wouldn't it be great to just be able to ask about this certain pants? What is the difference with this one? You know, going into an interaction which you cannot just display on a visual interface, because you cannot put all the possible questions on there, but you can anticipate which questions come very often in these instances. You can learn over time, and you can create an interface that can actually talk, can present something graphically, and can talk with you at the same time to answer certain specific questions. So creating such a special assistant, an assistant that creates really as also like a special bond with customers, is a long-term investment. So this is a 5-year plan. But in the end, you have to show results at the end of this year. So everyone who thinks about building a new voice bot, a new chat bot, has to start somewhere, right? And how do you do that? How do you do that so that you can move to the right direction? So you can move towards this goal of a truly charismatic assistant, but at the same time show or create impact along the way. So the point is, you actually don't start here, you know. So like here, this is the old Roosevelt, right? And you see that especially this element of power resonates from him, you know. So he has, of course, he has gained lots of experience. He has done lots of things, and he emits this element. I have the power, and he still emits this element. Yes, I can do something positive for you. And here I specifically also chose a picture where he's actually looking away. So even though he's not fully present here, you still feel it. But you can start here. So this younger version, you know, it's already also saying like, you know, I have the potential to do something good for you. And here, this person is fully present, is fully focused on you. So what you can do when you create such a virtual assistant, focus on in the beginning. You will not have the full strength. You will not understand all questions. It's going to grow over time. But when you invest in the beginning, for example, in creating a good assistant persona that has this element of presence, meaning like always trying to show the user, I'm here with you. And when you have a problem, even though I cannot solve it, I'm trying my best to still help you further, you know? And when you have this element of showing that I always want the best, you know, I might not know the answer yet, but here's something else that I can direct you towards, for example, to move you on along. When you focus on providing this already at the very start, and you create a personality that is is fun to interact with, you know, it feels good to interact with, then customers will actually be forgiving that it doesn't have yet the full strength, and they will stick along to give you actually the possibility to build up that strength. So adding more and more questions that you can answer, adding more and more use cases that you can fulfill. And I think this is also something that successful big voice platforms have done in that way. They have invested a lot in creating something that was attractive to interact with in the start. So even though, for example, Amazon Alexa was not able to do so much in the beginning, what it could do, it did well. It had like a good voice, for example, already, and this helped it move along to become, like, of course, more and more powerful over time, right? And if you do that, then you can really make the best out of this paradigm shift. Then you can really have something that is not just an interface that people get put out there and they have to somehow deal with it, but you can really create something that truly understands who I am, and through that truly can provide, for example, a special customer service. And maybe one more thing, when we think about creating these special interactions, these special assistants, it's a lot about understanding, well, what makes such a special interaction in a human-to-human context. And so designing such a virtual assistant is not an easy task. And that's a point I already made when I gave this presentation in the past. I think creating great virtual assistants is really the combination of great technology and great design. And so I always want to encourage that we really give the respect to great designers, great UX specialists that are helping to design these special assistants. And I think when we think about, like, you know, how many years of experience, for example, do we require from an IT architect that has to overhaul a whole IT system, we really say, like, okay, well, you know, at least we look at the CV, at least 10 years experience, and you have to be you have to do that for a long time. And when we look at designing these assistant interactions, we're saying, like, well, you know, it's everybody can easily learn that. And in my eyes, it's really the case that, of course, everybody who wants to can really put their mind to it, can get into it, but it takes time to really become an experienced designer of these assistant systems. So let's give I mean, again, I'm not there, but let's give a round of applause to all of these experienced designers. Let's learn from them. These experienced designers that are out there, that have for a long time also been creating these voice interfaces, and now help us create special, attractive virtual assistants. And whoever starts into this field, be humble. Maybe you have done a first course, but be humble in understanding that you can still really learn a lot from these experienced designers, UX specialists out there. And with this, I hope I could tell you a little bit today, little insights into charismatic assistants, charismatic AI, and I'm looking forward to continuing this discussion with you in the future.